What's going on, guys? Julian Smith here at Bodybuilding.com headquarters. Last time I was here, we trained arms. We are going live today with legs. Did a lot of work the other day, a little bit too much glute work, so we're hitting hamstrings and quads today. For sake of the live and the time frame that we have, we're going to go after superset and compound set style stuff. So starting out, we're going to go from a Platts hack style position right over here to barbell good mornings. Before I step away to show you everything, I'm going to show you the foot placement for the Platts hacks. We're going to go heels together, toes slightly pointed out, pushing through the outer parts of our foot to help engage the outer quad. And then we're going to go right over here to shoulder width, good mornings. And then we're going to come down nice and slow, bring it up. It's the same exact movement as a stiff leg deadlift. Upper body's going to be the hinge, hamstrings are doing all the work. So let's get after it. 15 reps on each. Ask any questions you got. I usually like to warm up, one or two for before I get into the heavy sets. Something that I'm doing on this, starting my workout, is usually a pump exercise, possibly extensions, usually a machine to get me ready for when I'm gonna go heavier on squats. Anybody who knows me on any of my social media, Instagram, Facebook, whatever I'm doing, it's form over everything. We do not want to be jerking movements around, exploding down, missing out on the negative. You want nice and slow, controlled negatives. The negatives, let's help and break down the muscle, and exploding up on the positive. Controlled no matter what. Slow movements are gonna get you all the results that you need. Fast and explosive and jerky movements are gonna get you the injuries that you don't want. So let's get started on this. Heels touching, toes pointed out. Go to the depth that you're able to achieve, not what I can achieve. Nice and slow. All leg equipment's different. Anybody who's probably seen me do these in the past, I go as full range of motion as possible. But sometimes machines are built a little bit differently. Range of motion's cut short. So just work with whatever machine that you got, that you have at your gym.
Have you always had awesome quads?
Not necessarily. I think my quads responded fast because at 15, I've told this story a few times, but when I asked my dad for a weight set, I was expecting a bench press and arm curls and stuff like that. And my dad got me a squat rack for my 15th birthday. So I learned how to squat at a young age, and that's what's like, when that's the only thing you can do, that's what you get good at, So I was able to work really hard at what I was able to do. Most people have dumbbells for arm curls, and I got started with my squats at a very young age.
Jimmy says hello.
Who?
Jimmy Broderick.
Jimmy Broderick, really good kid, man. He comes to all the expos, he's an awesome guy. What's up, Jimmy? Just inside shoulder width. You can switch your stance up on all these as well. Go to the range of motion that works best for you. Yeah, this is one of those things where it can get sketchy, come down like this, get too much, go falling forward, something like that. Always slow and controlled. You're never gonna hurt yourself if you're in control the entire time.
So, question from YouTube: what do you do when you lose motivation?
It's a good question. A lot of people get that. I get that as well. You know, I've been lifting for 15 years, bodybuilding for about 12, 13 years. And I just think it's one of those things where everyone can lose motivation, everyone can get down on themselves, everyone can feel in a rut. But as long as it's not something like a priority of everything should be you sticking to it. Like if you're in college and you're trying to get better grades, you're not gonna study one day out of the month. You're gonna study 29 days out of the month and take one day off because you're not feeling it. So same concept for this is as long as the majority of the time you're sticking to it and you're sticking towards your goals, it's okay to fall off every once in a while, lose motivation, but remember that you had started that journey for a reason and you need to get back on track because ultimately if it does make you happy, that's the only thing that you should be really worried about getting back to. So just worry about, you know, getting back to your goals and why you started everything in the first place. "15 reps, man."
So, how long do you usually take for rests?
So I usually take about, in between these, I'm gonna try to take a little bit longer in these just so I'm not sucking wind in between these sets, you know, answering questions for you guys, but a workout like this where I'm going back and forth while I'm doing hamstrings, my quads have already been rested. So I'll usually get done with this. I mean, that took me about, 10 seconds to walk over there. You put the weights on, you get into it. By the time you get back to quads, you usually have over a minute rest in between. But if it was just a straight quad set and I was waiting to get back to quads again, probably 30 seconds to 45 seconds max.
So another question from YouTube: why the belt if you're lifting lightweight?
And actually, what's really funny about the whole belt thing, it's a misconception of why you wear a belt in the first place. People wear a belt. I have people ask all the time, why are you wearing a belt if you're not, powerlifting? Why are you wearing a belt if you're not doing this? It has absolutely nothing to do with that. It has to do with stabilizing your core and your spine. So I see people all the time, they put their belt on and they freaking ratchet it down as hard as possible and their stomach's hanging over and they can't breathe. You want it just tight enough that you can breathe as much as possible. And what you want to do in any position that you can utilize a belt, you push your abdomen down, flex it into your belt. It strengthens your spine, tightens everything up, and gives you more stability during a lift, which prevents injury. So that's the whole point of wearing a belt. You can wear it on more exercises than just a squat and just a deadlift or anything like that. You can wear a belt and it helps you out with a lot more exercises than just a couple.
David from Facebook says you should make a Vans signature shoe.
Vans? You know what? I love Vans. I know those guys probably don't even realize I exist, but they have awesome shoes. And I tell everybody that people that don't know, I was a big skater growing up. That's like I still skate quite a bit. But when I was transitioning into lifting and stuff, I would be outside skating, get into football. I got to go get your workout done. I just never was the guy who liked the look of like Nikes or cross trainers or anything like that. So just wear the Vans into the gym. It turns out like some of my idols like Tom Platz, like that was their choice of shoe. The flat sole depressing, but hey, if anyone's got a connection with Vans, let me know. All right, so we're gonna do one more here, 15-15. And remember, I am stopping a little short on this one. I would normally take this as low as possible, but it's just due to the nature of this machine. So after we get these two done, we're gonna move on to the next exercise. Breathing on these exercises, big breath in on the way down, like you're talking about the belt. Push that abdomen into your belt, keeps everything nice and tight, nice and straight the entire time. All you need to do is wear a belt once and wear it the correct way on the negative portion of a rep, and you're gonna understand what I mean when I'm talking about tightening everything up and that big breath in, that cavity of air that pushes your abdomen into your, I look like Matt Foley when I did that right there, but push it into your belt. That's what's gonna make the big difference in feeling like stability and safe during an exercise. Matt Foley, you guys are gonna get that one. I'll just take these off now. Don't be the dude who leaves all the weights on.
What advice, or what's the best advice you could give somebody just starting to lift?
I would say focus on the, coming from a guy who likes to switch things up, but that comes from doing this for 15 years straight. I like to switch things up and do a lot of unique stuff, different, keep my, my mind occupied. I can't do bench every single day for chest. It gets boring, but when you're just starting out, master the basics. Master the squat, deadlift, bent over rows, pull-ups, bench press. And if you hit those basics and work on your nutrition, you're gonna have all the results that you want.
How often do you hit legs in the week?
I actually don't hit them as often as everybody thinks. I train them just as hard as everything else, but when you have a stronger mind-muscle connection in certain muscles, that's what's gonna make that muscle better. So if I'm working my quads and they're guaranteed getting all the work done to them, but like, let's say when I'm training chest, my delts and triceps take over more than anything else, I'm gonna get more out of something that has a stronger mind-muscle connection. So I actually only train my legs, I would say, once in 5 days. Just like everything else. People think it's like, I train them every single day, and I always tell people, I'm like, dude, if you have a poor mind-muscle connection in your legs, or you have a poor workouts, don't triple, do double workouts. Don't do 3 times the amount of workouts. Like, you're just doubling up the amount of crappy workouts that you're having. So get a good workout in and you'll be good to go.
So, question from YouTube.
Yes.
Who was your #1 idol when you started bodybuilding?
It's fun because I was like getting into bodybuilding when like the mass monsters were like the top of the league. You had Ronnie and Jay and those guys, but I honestly always liked, it sounds cliche because I feel like everyone says this nowadays, but like I really liked almost like the actor style buffness. You know what I mean? Like Arnold Schwarzenegger and like Commando, or like Rocky, you see these like athletic built dudes, not these big, Coke machines with legs, that can't get through doors. That never appealed to me. No offense to that look either, but I just like the idea of like a really built bodybuilder look that was also super athletic and can do whatever the hell they want. You know what I mean? And also at that young age, back when Kazaa or whatever it was called, I always say this, was out. I did some illegal downloading of Tom Platz's videos, and I was like, dude, this dude is awesome, but don't tell anybody I said that.
Did you tell Tom Platz that?
I didn't. I've had opportunities to tell him things like that, but I've seen him walk through at expos and talk about a dude. I mean, I don't know how long he's been lifting, but I don't know his age right now. He's probably got to be in his like late 60s. That dude is still on a mission, man. That dude's a beast. Rocking a ponytail at that age. He's awesome. So from here, we're going to walk over. We're going to go right to barbell squats. And then we're gonna have the dumbbells right down in the front. We're gonna do dumbbell stiff-legged deadlifts as well. So we'll get over to this, different reps and sets on this one, but still superset quad to hamstrings.
What does your daily nutrition look like?
Daily nutrition, so since I practice flexible dieting, my stuff, it's kind of like my workouts. They're all over the place. There's structure to what I'm doing. Like, I have an idea of what reps and sets I want to hit when I come into the gym, but what I don't know is what exercises I'm going to hit. People come into the gym on Mondays and they're trying to train chest. Everything's taken up and they go, well, I guess I'll sit here for an hour. No way, man. Like, I have I got stuff to do. I can't sit there and like wait for somebody else to come up with my stuff. Same thing with my diet. When I have, set macros that I'm trying to hit, but once the macros are figured out for my day, I could have a bowl of cereal pre-workout, oatmeal post-workout, steak or whatever for breakfast, pancakes, whatever for dinner, as long as I land on my macros, we're good to go. But there's definitely the favorite meals in there that I do like.
What advice do you have for somebody who has knee injuries for leg workouts, or have you had any knee injuries?
Have I ever had knee injuries? I've actually, so check it out. I know everyone's probably hoping to God that I say I had injuries on sissy squats at some point in my life, but the only time I ever had an injury was, I think I was like 19 or 20, no, it was earlier than that, probably like 18 or 19. On leg press, I locked my knees out and both my knees went down, like hyperextended down. They both bubbled up around my kneecaps, and I went to the doctor and they were actually like nothing happened. It was just one of those things that was like, you have an injury, but it was kind of like a pull in your hamstring. You're not gonna train legs for the next month, but luckily nothing really bad happened. And that was one of those things where it was like, dude, I was doing too much weight, way too much weight. Look at how I train now. All the people immediately asked, like, why do you need a belt if you're going so light? Dude, try doing 4-second negatives, with a 5-second pause at the bottom. Like, that's not light anymore, There was bodybuilders in the 90s who used to train with a plate on each side and do 10-second negatives, hold it above their chest for 10 seconds, 10-second positive, and hold it in the pause for 10 seconds. And those guys were huge, and it's the time under tension mindset. I'd rather lift 0 weight and get the physique that I want than try to impress the gym bros on a Monday and blow everything out and never do this again, you know what I mean? But back to that, yes, I've hurt myself, but nothing bad, thank God.
What's the best exercise to get the teardrop?
We'll be moving on to that in a second. So teardrops are going to be one of those things where a lot of people focus in on squats, and somewhere along the lines, people with their squatting, it was a stance issue. I think people associated being like buff with being strong, and it's just not the case. Bodybuilders aren't the strongest people in the world, and they need to recognize that. Like, I'm here to build muscle, not break world records. And when you're trying to squat for power and explosiveness and putting up the maximum amount of numbers as possible, you get a good, nice wide stance. You're engaging your glutes, hammies, and quads, and you're going to use the maximum amount of muscles possible to engage everything to recruit for the maximum amount of weight lifted. But if you're trying to hit just your quads or develop your teardrops or something, you bring in your shoulder, bring into a well within shoulder width, or I do cannonball squats like this where I'm in a ball the entire time. Your glutes aren't working, your hamstrings aren't working, your weight drastically drops, but it's 100% your quads, and that's what's going to build up those teardrops lower on your, centered around your kneecaps. So on these, we're going for 8 reps on these cannonballs. We'll probably do the cannonballs on leg press as well, but we're going from squats right over to stiff leg deads. I always bring, if I have an opportunity to bring and put everything right next to each other, this isn't ruin someone's workout. I put the dumbbells that I want to do for stiff leg deads right here. So I get done with my squat, there's no moving. I just literally bend over and I start my stiff leg deads. So we'll start with the squat portion. Again, find the range of motion that works best for you. A lot of people have amazing quads 10 times better than mine, and they don't go all the way to the ground. This is just preference for me, and I find it best to go full range of motion. All the way down. See how I'm flexing my legs, but I'm not locking them out? Flexing my legs at the top. Walk it in. Dumbbells are ready. I'm gonna go for 12. Don't whack my face.
Question from Facebook. How long did it take you to break into the fitness industry, and what's the best advice that you would give somebody trying to?
So I mentioned earlier that I've been doing this for almost 15 years. I can't, doctors don't go to school that long. So imagine doing something for so long, and you know, I've had my family tell me like, dude, they're wasting your time with this. And it's not until about 3 years ago when I got sponsored by Optimum that I even made anything of, or even thought to be making anything of this. The world we live in right now is pretty cool, and it's got unique opportunities for all the people that really enjoy the fitness side of things. But, you know, I was at it for a good, you know, well over a decade before there was any idea that this is even something that was in the realm, you know, of possibilities. And now I think people kind of just need to harden up a little bit and think to yourself like, dude, I don't have the best physique, guys. Like, you know, you need more than just a physique. I could walk into probably any 24-hour fitness in the country and find 1 or 2 dudes who could be on the cover of Muscle and Fitness, you know what I mean? But you need more than just a built physique. You know, if you're going for Mr. Olympia, cool, man, maybe the body's all you need, you know, but if you're looking to make it in the fitness world, be genuine, come up with new content, you know, do stuff that's out of the ordinary. I wanted to build a Instagram that was, you know, about my life and my training. You know, I get chubby in my off seasons. I don't care to look, I don't want a six pack year round, you know? You know, I'm not gonna have model photo shoots, I'm not in my underwear, nothing wrong with that. But that wasn't my thing, and I wanted to do something different. And when you do something different, you're gonna weed out all the people that are not into what you're doing, but you're also gonna tap into all the people that have been dying to see what you're doing. So I think it's it's a really good opportunity for people to find out, you know, I tell people all the time if they're trying to build up a social media brand or get in the fitness world, find out what works best for you and what you enjoy, and just work on letting people see it, because there is millions upon millions of people on social media, and I guarantee 500,000 people would love to follow you if you just got your name out there. People just quit too early.
Question from YouTube. Have you ever tried Hani Rambod's or Hani Rambod's FST7 program?
Oh yeah.
And what do you think?
Hani's an awesome dude. And what people who follow me and probably have seen some of the stuff that I do, I really like biting a lot of people's style because their style works. You know, FST7, you know, fascial stretch training is incredible. I like DC. If anybody remembers dog crap from, I think it's like early 2000, late 90s, that's where dog crap stretch style training is where, you know, when you're done with your chest workout, you'll actually grab like 80-pound dumbbells or whatever whatever it would be for you, and hold in a stretch position for 2 minutes. So people are like, oh my God, like that's ridiculous. Yeah, man, like try it. You know, all you need to do is try something like that. Like I'll get done with, you know, legs or something like that, and I'll sit in this position with like an 100-pound dumbbell on my chest or something like this, and keeping my quads completely stretched, letting them as stretched as possible, which people can't really understand what that feels like. And that's the cool part of like social media nowadays, is because you can find all these different things. But Hani Rambod's FST7 is super cool. I've always liked that style stuff.
Yeah.
Lighten it up, pump it out.
Another question from Facebook.
Yeah.
Michael asks, he says your mobility is spot on. What would you suggest for somebody trying to increase their mobility?
Okay, so this is actually a perfect question, because I was going to say this before any of these even popped through, but if you've noticed, in between each one of my sets when I'm resting, I'm in the most vulnerable position for, that everyone talks about. How do you get your knees over your toes? How do you do this with your knees? How do you have the mobility in your toes to do something like that? That I sit in this position. Like I'll sit like this, balanced, in between chest, in between everything, because I don't have a problem touching my chest with the bar, but most people have a problem, doing something like this in a squatting position. So if you do this for over a decade straight, every single day, multiple times, my example is, if I tried to do the splits right now like a gymnast, I'd probably tear my groin. But no one's gonna walk up to a gymnast and go, you know what, that's probably not smart. You shouldn't do that, because they've been doing it their entire life. It's easy for them. So if you practice something over and over and over, it's gonna be cake for you. I'll probably be able to do the splits in that.
Another question real quick.
Yeah.
What is your cardio to weight training ratio?
So I really don't do much cardio. I didn't do much cardio in regards to this cut. I wanted to experiment a little bit, and the entire time I prepped, I think, a little over 2 months for this shoot. And what I ended up doing was boxing. So cardio is it's the bodybuilding world, you know what I mean? Everyone thinks it's either low intensity on a treadmill or, high intensity on a bike, in which a lot of people still fear high intensity. I don't know why, but I did all my high intensity work through boxing this year. And I was able to make food adjustments and only box to get in condition for this. And I think that's pretty cool, and people need to realize that, but it's just minor adjustments. If I want to lose fat and my diet's so spot on, all I need to do is either take out 15 grams of carbs or add in two more minutes of high intensity work on my boxing sessions, which were twice a week. So once you understand your macros and understand how your body reacts, the little changes make a huge difference. You don't need to cut out 50 grams of carbs. It's the small changes that make a big difference. And as long as you're spot on with everything else, they'll be good to go. So we're gonna do one more of these before we move on to our next 2 exercises. Superset exercise, ready to go. 12 reps. Done with this. From here, we're gonna be moving on to cannonball leg presses, which I'll explain in a second. As you see me get out of breath, I'll get down into my position because this feels the best. And then we're gonna go over to Nordic curls as well. So basically getting closer to more mobility style work and then a body weight hamstring exercise. Because when it comes down to it, you have seated lying leg curls, good mornings, you know, a couple other things, but it's always a curl or a stiff leg variation for hammies. And doing something like a Nordic curl can really step up your leg game.
Question from YouTube.
Yeah.
How important is it to switch up your routine and have the body continue to guess which exercises and sets and reps that you'll do?
So the way that I structure my training right now is I do a week of explosive work. Anybody who follows my site, follows my my workouts that I post up, it's I know people hate that. I put the 45 over the 35, but I'll fix that in a little bit. But so what I do is explosive work, and then I go over to time under tension high rep work. So, but within that, there's all kinds of other variables that take place. You know, people need to think that, you know, the human body's not a robot. Why are we all doing 3 sets of 10? Why are we doing 3 sets of 15? You know, I do squats I do 60 rep squats, 50 rep squats. I'll get in there and do, you know, for my birthday, I turned 30 this year. Whew. And I did 30 reps on every muscle. So 4 sets of 30 for bench, 4 sets of 30 for, you know, dumbbell curls. You know, everything on my leg day was 30 reps. And, you know, it's not until you do stuff like that that you realize, damn, like, you know, the body's pretty unreal. Like, you know, if you can go over and, you know, lift a car off of a kid or something like that, or, you know, go do something, you know, to save your life, like, think at that same, like, fight or flight mode for the gym. And there's, you know, you shouldn't limit yourself between that, like, you know, 6 to 10 and 10 to 20 rep range. Think outside the box, and it's a completely different world. But for answering that question specifically is, I change that stuff up as, you know, drastic as possible. Just because I'm hitting reps between 4 and 6, I might do 4 sets of 6 with a 2-second pause in the stretch. I might do 4 sets of 6 with time under tension negatives. I might do 4 sets of 6, you know, with a 4-second positive. But you're getting those reps in, but hitting it different ways each time. So, which is going to help tap into all the different muscle fibers, and it's awesome. So we're going on to, right now, like I said, cannonball leg presses. We're going to be bringing our feet low on the platform, different range of motion. Again, with the Tom Platz thing, I've seen pretty interesting articles about him talking about how he thought leg presses were a joke. He says leg presses were a photo shoot exercise because you load it up with a lot of weight and the range of motion is a couple of inches, you know what I mean? So when I do it, I do a cannonball leg press, full range of motion, almost as if you would get it with a sissy squat or a leg extension, and bring it all the way. Obviously, you have to lighten up like crazy, but the stretch and engagement that you get in the rest of your quads is unreal. And when you go nice and light and controlled, you're not gonna see any injuries.
Do you have any advice to increase vascularity in your legs?
So I think and I'll be honest with you guys, because it wasn't until you bulk up, you get lean, you bulk up, you get lean, but you do this for the course of, 15 years. When I first started training, I had maybe this little guy, immediately, probably for the first like 6 years, and I was like, wow, I'm probably never gonna have veins. But I also only had one vein in my arm. And then over the course of time, they start spidering off, and the leaner you get, little ones come off of that. And, over the course of time, then you have, the big ones that run down your legs. And I attribute a lot of that to, the way I train. I think people would see a difference in their physique if they train differently. If you've been doing 3 sets of 10 on your leg workouts for, 10 years, and nothing's changing, why are you still doing 3 sets of 10 on your leg routine, If you get in here and you pump your legs full of blood with 50 reps on leg extensions, you're gonna feel a pump you've never felt in your life, and the pump is blood flow. Blood flow going through your veins, going through your arms, going throughout your muscles, and that's what you need to realize. But as long as you keep the pressure, keep the building, and the way that you train and the intensity, I think, everyone's got veins, it's genetics, these come off to the side and go weird over here. This one's just kind of straight down. This one has a big one over my teardrop. This one, the vein that's here is up here. There's nothing symmetrical about it, and you might get, a crazy amount on one shoulder and nothing over there. Sorry, that's just the way it is, but that stuff will come through time, and it's gonna come through your training. Come through your training, and if you're not lean, you will never see it. You could probably have the greatest, vascularity in the world, but I don't see any of this stuff until I'm, closer to 190. When I'm in my off season around 200 to 205, I have a couple of arm veins. There's none of this going on, Photoshop veins. I'm gonna actually scoot this way a little bit. So we're gonna go on these, time under tension, a little slower, 4-second negatives, cannonballs, and then we're just gonna go to failure. When I do body weight stuff, body weights are usually some of my favorite exercises: pull-ups, sissy squats, push-ups, dips. You master stuff like that, that can change your physique by itself. So we're gonna go here, we're gonna go there. And 2 different rep ranges, 2 different feelings for this entire thing. Did you have another question? I saw you look at me. Oh, no. Okay. Hit me with one, I got it.
Does your training style keep you athletic as intended? Are you fast? Can you jump?
I like to think of myself as an athlete. Like I said, I box. I'm pretty. I can't go run a mile like I used to, but I'm fast. I do sprints. I do high intensity work. I get myself moving, and that's just what it is. But it's like people that are like not athletes and then they get into bodybuilding. You're gonna ask those people like, hey, can you run? No, because they didn't run when they weren't bodybuilders. So if you were an athlete prior, like some of the people that are on like the Golden Aesthetics team with me, like Liam Kelly, he's a like gnarly, really, really good boxer. And he's like 270 in his off season. And when he punches a punching bag, the bag like wants to break off the ceiling. And that's just coming from being an athlete at a young age. And just because you put on muscle, there's no excuse to like lose your athleticism. Make sense? All right, so we're gonna go in here. Normal leg press, people are probably gonna be about here. Shoulder width is what's gonna take more glutes in. Higher on the platform is gonna be engaging your glutes. So if you want a quad dominant leg press, we're gonna bring these down here. And then if you want outer sweep focus, teardrop, which somebody asked earlier, I like to bring them in here like this. And I have proof of this as well because I saw a video from like, I think it was the late 90s with Frank Zane calling these toe presses. The only reason I call them cannonballs because it looks like when I'm in a full range of motion, it looks like I'm doing a cannonball into a pool. So same style, bring this up, get it nice and control, as low as you can go. People think this is knees, man, but like all you need to do is something like this, even the camera guy. We were messing around with sissy squats prior to this, and you do the correct form, it's just like, dude, that's all quad, you know what I mean? So get that, bring it up, squeeze it at the top, see how the muscles are contracting. You're not locking your knees out, hurting your joints. When you're doing slow and controlled movements, all the way down. Bring it up. Jump right over here to Nordics. These are super difficult. These are very difficult for me as well. You can get on the back of a lat pull down, anything where you can cinch your legs in like this, and it's body weight work. If your torso on these are straight up, like straight up like this, that's gonna be the most difficult way to do it. If you're starting out with this, hunch yourself forward, take some of the weight off your hammies, and do little pulses like this. Let yourself catch, and then come up. And then as you start to fail over the course of this exercise, you can kind of come down, push yourself up. Catch yourself on the negative, push yourself up. You're not gonna hurt yourself, not gonna bang your face. If you hit your face on this exercise, there is zero instincts on you. You need to make sure that you're covering your face. Like people say all the time, oh, I knocked my teeth out. Well, put your hands down, man. Put your hands back here when you're about to hit the ground, like put your hands down. So catch yourself, spot yourself on these things. Down, boom, up. It's that negative. You won't feel anything like the negative portion on a Nordic curl. Just go to failure. And when I say failure, it's what my body can do. It's not like I'm going to failure and then having somebody help me with 5 more. You know, that's a different type of failure. I'm saying however many I can do with just my own body. Just do a couple more. And see, I'm also doing that. I'm bending myself because my hamstrings are already fatigued. If I was up straight like this and coming down, probably like 1 or 2 max. And I'd probably do something like that at the beginning of my exercise, beginning of my workout, I'm sorry.
Question from YouTube. What are your favorite hobbies to do outside of the gym?
So I was born and raised in Oregon. A lot of outdoor activities fun. Obviously when you have, 7-8 months out of the year, that's pure rain, kind of puts a damper on the, you like that? Damper on the outdoor activities, but I like stuff. My family, they're all from Southern Florida. We're big boaters. So when summer rolls around, every single weekend we're heading down to the river. Between my dad and I, we've owned multiple boats. It's all we like doing, going and relaxing out on the river. When you have like a lifestyle that's, it's kind of like this isn't as intense as like MMA or fighting, right? But when you have a sport or a lifestyle that revolves around beating your body up and putting it through maximum pain, a lot of my outdoor or like outside of the gym activities for fun is pretty chill. We'll go out, there's some really cool hills out in the country. We'll go longboarding. I go shooting with my buddies. We'll go out there, target practice, goof off. My buddy Dan Peel will go out to his place, throw some axes. Just do like guy fun stuff to take your mind off of, I'm a 30-year-old kid, I like to say. I like to do a lot of fun stuff and goof off. I still skateboard. I'll watch my, I'll go out with my girlfriend's son. We'll get on the skateboards and we'll cruise through the neighborhood, with my Great Dane pulling us behind the, in front of the boards, you know what I mean? So that whole thing and getting out and getting moving, as much fun stuff like that and, speed involved and like intensity on a lighter level towards my body is the most fun. But one thing that I will say I'd love to get back into, and you might see me doing it more this winter, is snowboarding, because snowboarding is one thing that is like, when you get done at the mountain, it's like, that was a leg workout. Like you're in this position the entire time. That's why I don't wakeboard anymore, is because it's like a pure leg workout the entire time. But there's no excuse to not do that kind of stuff. And the amount of fun that you have doing that is like, I love it.
Vicky from Facebook asks, what supplements do you take?
So supplements right now, it goes back and forth because I really like to eat. I was one of those guys who, when I first got sponsored, especially when I was with Optimum, I really liked you get your big old thing of supplements and you're stoked and you're like, I'm gonna use all this stuff, and then you're like, but now I'm not eating food anymore. Like, yeah, I've had 4 protein shakes a day, and now my macros are almost gone, and now it's dinner time and I have nothing. So being in my family's Russian and Italian. My mom cooks good food, and I am a big, advocate of solid meals. So right now, I've kind of strayed away from a lot of, mass supplements getting in, not masses in like mass gainers, but like, the multis, the pre-workout, the post-workout, all this stuff. I like that stuff, but it's not a supplement's a supplement to your diet. It's not called your diet. It's a supplement. So my diet is pretty much everything that I consume now in regards to nutrients, and I will do creatine post-workout. I do whey protein in my cereal in the morning instead of milk. And then I do, mentioned creatine, BCAAs when I'm dieting down multiple times throughout the day, morning, pre, post-workout, and before I go to bed. Sometimes ZMAs, I'll go in and out of ZMAs, but other than that, it's pretty different how well you feel when you just have like a pretty damn good diet on hand, you know what I mean? But when I'm traveling and something like that, you gotta make do, and that's just kind of the end of it. We'll do one more of these, one more Nordic curls, and then we're gonna go over, and I thought it would be very fitting to do the first ever live sissy squat and give an instructional on how to do it correctly. Because if the camera guy can do it, you can do it. All right. Slow and controlled. One thing that I do, like let's say I'm shooting for 6 reps, right? And let's say I totally judged it wrong, weight was way too light, I could probably get 10 or 12. Slow it down even more, and instead of doing like a 3 or 4 second negative, do like a 3 or 4 second pause on the stretch. Pausing on the stretch of an exercise helps engage more muscle fibers and recruits more muscle fibers to conduct the exercise best as possible. When I have an issue with my chest not, engaging as much as the rest of my body, I'll pause on the stretch, and I feel so much more activation out of my pecs by doing stuff like that. So if you have issues with your muscles engaging, or it's a lagging body part, pause on the stretch to engage more muscle fibers. Cannonball toe presses.
Question from YouTube.
You go ahead.
What type of music do you listen to when you train?
So when I'm in a position where, this is actually pretty interesting because I was talking about this the other day with one of my lifting partners, is because when I'm doing something that I'm very comfortable with, like legs, I don't need a lot of mind involved. Like I know exactly what I'm doing. No matter what I do, I could have a full conversation with somebody and get 100% muscle fiber activation, out of my legs doing something like this. I know my muscles that well for this, right? So in that sense, I'll train with more intense music. I like Slipknot, Korn, System of a Down, old stuff, that reminds me of when I was 15, first getting into the gym. But in regards to stuff like, and I'm not kidding, when I get into stuff like chest or shoulders, I actually have a really good time like listening to like oldies and stuff that kind of calms me down, because you don't want to get overly amped up on a muscle that you're not super comfortable with, because all you're going to do is focus on moving the maximum weight as possible. And that isn't the case for bodybuilding. So what I'll do is, like the other day when we were doing the photo shoot, we were listening to Four Seasons, like Frankie Valli. Like when I box, we'll listen to Four Seasons. Like I like stuff that if I'm uncomfortable with what I'm doing and it's new to me, and I'm learning still, I'm not learning much more on quads. I'm always trying to learn, but my leg workouts are pretty set in stone. I know what the hell I'm doing. But when it comes to learning something else, I don't want to be clouded by, testosterone and adrenaline. I want to be in my right mind so I can be ready to go. So oldies. I'm not a big country fan anymore. I used to be like more into country when I lifted, but System of a Down, old school rock, heavy rock when I'm doing stuff that I'm comfortable with, slower oldie style stuff when I'm doing stuff that I'm not very comfortable with. Frankie Valli and Four Seasons, dude.
Question from Facebook. Michael asks, when training legs, what's the most important thing to remember?
Form. That should be anything though. So think of it like this. Let's say you're training squats, right? You're hitting a leg day. You get done with squats and you're like, wow, my glutes are sore. Why? Why are glutes sore? It shouldn't be. Oh, quad dominant day, hit squats, man, my glutes are torn up. Why? This doesn't make any sense. You should be targeting, if I'm hitting bench press and I get done, I'm like, whew, man, I feel that in my front delts. I am doing it wrong. You should be feeling it in your chest. Bodybuilding is the art of isolating one muscle. The primary work muscle that you're doing should be hit. So if you're feeling it in everything else, switch everything up and do that. So the thing with legs, I can't tell you how many times we'll go to these camps for like Golden Aesthetics or something. We'll go somewhere where someone goes, hey man, can you check my form? Or like the Olympia or LA Fit Expo. And they'll go, I want you to check my form. I feel like I'm just not getting the results. And I'll go, okay, show me your squat stance. And they go like this. All right, I start like this. I go, stop. Go like this. And they go, oh. And they'll write me like 6 months later and they're like, dude, that changed everything, man. Sure, I went down to like from 3 plates to 1, but I also gained, 2 inches in my quads. 2 inches is a lot. Okay, so form over everything and just make a conscious effort of like going after what you're trying to do. If you're trying to hit your biceps and you're feeling it in your rear delts, you're doing it wrong, Hit the muscles that are trying to be worked.
What is your go-to cheat meal?
Man, so I have my classification of a cheat meal is something that there is absolutely no way you can track to make it as good as possible. So I can do sushi, I can do pancakes. Dude, if you try to do some super weird cauliflower pizza, forget about it, man. Like, pizza is the ultimate cheat meal. Like, you go to my girlfriend's favorite place is Bellagio's. I've never even heard of it until recently. I was a Papa Murphy's kind of guy, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like pizza is one of those things where you take it and it's just like, dude, I don't know what I just ate, but it's most likely 10 days worth of fat. And, you're bloated immediately. And I'm the kind of guy where I have a cheat meal. It's not a slice of pizza, it's kind of the whole pizza. So pizza to me is the ultimate because you can almost track everything else. But a homemade pizza does not, count. Again, it doesn't even come into the same ring as like a take and bake like style Papa Murphy's pizza. That was a plug for Papa Murphy's. I'm sponsored by them. Just so you know. Papa Murphy's and bodybuilding. So from here, guys, we wanted to go over the Sissy squats. We'll do the body weights first and then transition over to the Smith machine. I feel like Smith machine deficit Sissy squats get a bad rap because of the depth that you take. That was a hard one. But so you get into it and you almost have more stability. We were talking about it earlier, when you get into the Smith machine, you're actually leaned up against something that kind of locks you into the correct position, and it's just worrying about form. It's like getting into a hack squat. What's harder, a hack squat or a squat? A squat, because you have to balance and do everything as well. So a bodyweight squat, in my opinion, is difficult in regards to like mobility and stability, but when you do a deficit Sissy squat over here on the Smith machine, it's gonna be one of those things where it's a mobility hindering exercise. If you don't have the mobility, you cannot do it. So we'll start with bodyweight first, but we'll move over here to get going.
For a comment from YouTube, Julian Smith, the leg god, he's dope AF.
Is that my mom?
Nope.
I love her. She always gets on my stuff. I'm just kidding. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, the stuff like this, and I always encourage people, like, when you're doing Sissy squats, I mean, just Google Sissy squats. Like, you'll see a picture of Tom Platz in the late 60s doing these with like an 80-pound dumbbell resting on his chest. This is back before, like new, high-end equipment is out, and like these old school dudes were doing it. And I say this a lot. This is like actually one of my favorite lines that Tom Platz said. He goes, bodybuilding today has way too much science and not enough hard work. And back in the old days when those guys were figuring out what worked best, they tried stuff, they did stuff. They didn't look at somebody. When I first got into squatting and trying to develop my legs, I didn't look at Tom Platz doing the certain things that he did and go, there's no way I'm doing that. There's no way I'm gonna do that because that's bad on your knees. There's no way I'm gonna do that. I just saw the dude that had the best legs in the business and I was like, I wanna have legs like that guy. I'm gonna try and do what that guy does. And weirdly, when you do it right, you're not gonna hurt yourself. So we'll start with Sissy squats first. We'll get right into it. Any type of support. Sometimes it's good if you have something in between. You can move these guys maybe. So if you have one, you can kind of favor one side more than the other. So get a spot where you can grab both sides. So general rule of thumb, squatting, pressing, any movement like that, the way your toes are pointing, your knees should be pointing as well. I can't tell you how many times I see people do that as well. You ever see people squat and they come down like this and their knees come in? That's what's gonna hurt your knees. Or their toes are pointed like this and they do crap like that. Whatever way your toes are pointing, your knees go in the same direction and you won't have any issues with your knees. Promise you. So we'll get into this. Knees pointed straight, toes pointed straight, and then you're gonna kind of just come down in that position. Nice and slow. And then come up. When your upper leg and torso are in the straight line like this, that's what's gonna give you the maximum engagement in your quads. If you're doing stuff like this, that's a good start. Get into the movement. I'm gonna nail my head on that, I know it. But get into this position, that's a good start to feel it out. But once you start figuring out, like, okay, I always tell people, like, maybe you're squatting, let's see if you can go past parallel, and I take the weight off the bar and then they just do it easy. I'm like, everybody has a lot more mobility than they think. They're just worried about what they're about to do. So have a little bit more faith in yourself, do body weight to start, get into it, toes and knees pointing in the same direction. Come up, nice and slow, controlled. Let your hands come down, up, nice and slow, down. You don't want your knees out like this with your toes pointing forward. This. The whole point of a sissy squat is to have your upper leg and torso in the same position. So from here, we're gonna go into deficit sissy squats. Cue the knee questions, just kidding. So usually when you do this, the biggest issue that I see and what makes me happy about like Instagram nowadays is you have not only like the fitness side of things, but you have like doctors. I've been in like big contact with Dr. Harden quite a bit over the past little bit after I kind of like started following him. He has awesome content. He's basically a mobility god, and he breaks down all the exercise that you think is wrong and why it's not wrong. And what I like about people like that is people like to give certain people a bad rap in the industry. I'm not saying me, but like the bodybuilders. But what's cool is you have people like Dr. Harden on Instagram who has a really cool page that tells you how to do it the right way. And that's the best part. So you can see people and say, you know what? I want to see if that's actually not that big of a deal or something like that. Go to that guy's page, man. He's my video instructions for like leg training exercises. He's got like the library for mobility. The dude's insane. So, but he did a very, very interesting breakdown on how to work your way up to something like this and how this stuff is not bad for your knees, most importantly. So we'll get into this. I like to have the box a little bit more out in front. The travel of this comes straight down, and I want my toes a little bit out in front. You don't want to be out on the top of this, so this thing falls over and you look dumb on your live at Bodybuilding.com, the second time you've been back. So you want to get this here, ready to go. You're not going to be able to come up all the way. The only Smith machine that I've ever been on that you could actually shoulder press in was in Florida, and this is just, most gyms just have a short enough one. So if you're going to try to get under this on a box, you will most likely stand up and then hit something at the top. Okay, maybe you guys have like the coolest Smith machine ever because I'm not doing it. But anyway, oh yes, because when you're on your tippy toes. So when you get forward, the exact same thing. So if you want to get into it first, we'll come down. What happened here? Oh, there we go. So we get down. Like I said, start in this position just to feel it out, right? This is the normal thing, the normal warming up. You sit here, no issues. But the point of being on the box in the first place, there's zero point in doing this unless your knees travel past your toes. That's the ultimate range of motion. So what you're going to try to do is get down to this position from the start. So you're not going to go here and then go down because you're limiting all that engagement from the start down. So we're going to start at the top. Go. Knees forward. And then you're going to come down nice and slow. On everything nice and slow. Slow as you can get. All the way up. Nice and slow. Keep that spine straight. None of this. None of this. Just like nice and straight. Base everything like this off of your own range of motion. I know a lot of people have never done anything like that before. Not a lot of people have gone, ass touching the ground on squats either. So what you want to do is find the range of motion that works best for you. If you're dying to get range of motion that you could, pick up a pine cone with your butt cheeks on squats, work towards that. But if you don't want that and that's not your, what you're trying to go for, don't do it. But something like this, I see people tag me in it a lot, and I respect the grind for trying to get there. But standing on a box in a Smith machine doing these doesn't make any sense at all unless your knees travel past your toes, because the point of being elevated is so your knees go past what the floor would normally allow. So you can start with a plate, you can start with a 25, you can start with a 45. This is honestly too high because I probably only go down to about like right here, but that's the maximum amount of range of motion that I can achieve. So, sorry, go ahead.
Question from YouTube.
Yeah.
Alexander says, "Hey Julian, greetings from Bulgaria.
Oh yeah.
How do you grow a beard like yours? Because those legs are just impossible to grow."
A beard? Oh man, you should talk to everybody else in this room. I just trimmed mine. But yeah, you said beard, right?
Beard, yes, correct.
For a second I thought you said, how do you want to go get a beard? And I was like, I'm down with that too. But yeah, so the whole beard thing, it's funny because I actually had very little beard in my early 20s, and it wasn't until I was probably in my, I would say early 20s is when it like actually started to grow in. But You know, I was the dude in high school that like put Rogaine on his face to try to grow like a mustache. So I have no shame in not having the great beard genetics, but I guess I overshot it because now it's going crazy. So I might grow it back.
Question from YouTube. Should we put extra time for developing bigger calves?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't have the greatest calves, and I actually, my right calf is slightly bigger than my left. We all have our asymmetrical body parts. We all have something that we need to work on. And I think it's a fine line between being your own worst critic and, you know, tearing yourself down. You know, you don't want to be the person who self-hates or whatever, but when it comes down to it, I think what you really need to do is find out what your lagging body parts are and attack it. You know, I know for a fact that my calves should come up, and I'm actually going to be switching my split up here pretty soon so I can do them twice a week. That's what you need to do. And the thing is, one thing that I will say for people that have lagging calves, stop putting it at the end of your workout, because no one is going to train a full leg day and then go, okay, I'm going to go on to something that I absolutely hate, calves. So what you want to do is put that at the beginning of your workout. When I was really having issues with my calves, and you know, everyone goes through that a little bit of a self-conscious period where you're like, dude, you know, one person needs to say, man, you ever work on your calves? Like, what's going on with those things? Like, all you need to do is hear that once. And then I was the kind of guy who, before I hit chest or before I hit back, I hit calves, 2 or 3 exercises, you know, 12 to 16 sets, and then varied up my rep ranges as well. But if you're fresh, that pre-workout just hit you, your pre-workout meal is in you, and you have all that energy, don't wait till you're gassed out and your mind's not in it. Go into an attack. You probably will see pretty dang quick that, you know, your calves might not really be your lagging muscle. You're just training them at the end when you don't have any, you know, fuel in the tank. So I'm gonna take just a couple more seconds of this, and we'll do one more of these.
Would you recommend separating quads and hamstrings to separate workout days?
Yeah, that's actually something that I'm going to do as well. So I really like the idea of training quads all by themselves. I like volume. I like intensity. I like doing a lot of stuff for my quads. And my workouts, a full leg day, let's say I'm hitting quads, hamstrings, and glutes, it's going to be closer to like 2 hours. I know a lot of people don't believe in that. That worked for me. So that's what I enjoy doing. But if you're the kind of person, let's say you don't have 2 hours at the gym, let's say you have an hour max, I would train a quad day and then I would do a hamstring glute day. But whenever I train my quads, I do my adductors for sure. So I'll do adductor, what do they call it? Good bad girls, good girl, bad girls? The adductor machine where you squeeze your legs together, you're gonna hit those on your quad day, and the abductor machine where you push your legs apart, that's gonna be hit on your glute and hammy day. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's actually some of my favorite splits is where I break it up, because in my mind, it's the same concept of the calves, where if I hit quads first in my workout, my hamstrings are going to get the ass end of like the intensity. But if I go into the next day that I hit legs and hammies are first, then your hammies are going to be fresh and they're going to be completely worked differently than your quads and have a different intensity brought to them. And that's what's really going to show up. You train your legs 4 days into your week when you're already gassed. When you've trained everything else that you love, and then you train legs, and you're like, oh, this sucks, I'm not even gonna put too much effort into this. But you put your legs at the beginning of the week like I do, it's pretty easy to go into that post-rest day and be amped up, ready to go and have a full, plate of energy in your body, you know what I mean?
Question from Facebook. Mm-hmm. What inspires you?
I have different things that inspire me. I feel like I was the guy growing up who really wanted to be, like an IFBB pro, especially when I was getting, out of high school sports and realizing that I wasn't going on to college or doing anything special with that. I really wanted to find something that would put me in the spotlight because I like the idea of being the big deal. But I think when you get older and you become more comfortable with yourself, like I was starting to be inspired more with people that like, I would see people at the gym who would like lose a lot of weight, like, over 100 pounds. And I'm like, dang, like, that's way harder than putting on like a pound of muscle. You know what I mean? Like I could work all year and build a pound of muscle, but that dude has literally been working so hard that he dropped, a human. He dropped, one of my girlfriends off of him. And in my mind, that's like some pretty inspiring stuff. And people like that who have, issues that they're working through, that inspires me. So it's not one of those things where I'll look at highlight reels while I'm on the treadmill or something, getting ready for a workout, or, highlight reels of football, highlight reels of, game-winning plays, highlight reels of boxing champions, people overcoming odds. And something that I think is inspiring is just people, maybe it's more the underdog aspect, like somebody who, I don't have the best genetics, and I never would have thought that I'd be filming at Bodybuilding.com. I've been doing this long enough that, you know, I've never been on a cover of a magazine. You know, I'm not going to be on the IFBB Pro stage ever, and I'm okay with that, but I'm also doing everything that I've ever wanted to do. So that to me is inspiring. So, you know, I guess it's more like underdog and proving people wrong is what gets me pretty inspired and amped up about stuff. So we'll do one more of these. All right. Sit down at the bottom of it if you want. Don't need any weight for this, guys. Something on these where you do body weight, I always tell people, like, you know, going failure on Nordic curls or something like that. Don't push yourself to failure where you're at the bottom of something like this and you're gonna have to break form to get out of it, because something like this where you break the form and jerk your way, that's what's gonna hurt you. So really start to know your body, realize what your body's got. Don't be the person who pushes 2 reps past what they got and needs someone to rip the bar off them at the gym or something like that. I rarely train with a spotter anymore. I rarely train with someone who's helping me with my stuff, because I'm not there for them to get a workout in. You know, they're working out with me, but if someone's doing my reps, it's too much weight. So know your body, do the most that you can do by yourself, and then you're gonna see more results that way anyway.
So we'll go last question from YouTube.
Yeah.
On your fitness journey, was there anything that demotivated you, and then how did you get through it?
Yeah, I guess early on in my fitness journey, you know, I can't tell you how many times, and it still is, like my chest and shoulders are lacking compared to, you know, the rest of my body. It's something, it's like it still blows my mind how people like will write on pictures and they'll go, and this is funny because everyone who follows me will now say this, but I respect the push towards me and the poke at me, but you know, they'll sit there and say, great physique, man, just bring up that chest. I know, dude. Been working on it for 15 years, so I know that. But in my mind, what really got me stoked, and I was really demotivated at first because I thought, man, like, if I'm gonna be an IFBB pro, I need a chest. I've had that conversation, like, dude, if I don't have a chest, I've told people that, I'm never gonna step on a stage again unless my chest matches everything else. Guess what, it's probably not gonna happen. And, you know, if it took me 15 years to build this, that means it's probably gonna take at least 15 years to get my chest on the same level, but guess what, everything else is gonna grow as well. So what we need to do is just stay motivated for the entire thing, like for the most part. So I think what demotivated me was getting down on myself, but now it's one of those things where, you know, I'm stoked on the physique that I have, and now I'm happy with where I'm at, and that makes me happy just getting better at it. Because if I had the perfect physique, I probably wouldn't be, you know, grinding as hard as I do right now. So that's actually the end of the workout, guys. You know, short and sweet, supersets back and forth, targeting all muscles. You know, I'm glad you guys like that. You know, if you guys have any other questions, you can always hit me up on my Instagram, smith.julian, my Facebook page, Julian Michael Smith, and my website, thequadguy.com. You know, if you've seen my stuff, you know that I do a lot of instructional stuff. I'm not going to cloud you with a bunch of selfies. You know, it's kind of not my thing. I really like showing exercises I do in training. So if you have questions about any of that stuff, hit me up. Again, we're at the Bodybuilding.com headquarters. Thankful to be here. Any questions about anything, always ask.